everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts on this beautiful Tuesday. Enjoying the warmth for now, but
Yeah.
As far as Wisconsin goes, we have another dynamic system ahead tomorrow that's going to bring us a little bit of everything.
Yeah, well, even today throws us a little bit of a curveball.
Yes.
It's one of these days when I try to make sure that I'm very clear with people, because I would rather under-promise and over-deliver than over-promise and under-deliver. So today, sometimes it looks really nice. You look and you see some 50s and you see some sunshine. That's only for now. It gets a little chillier this afternoon, and things definitely change tonight. But of course, the big weather headline locally is going to be tomorrow, and of course, we will obviously be digging into that in depth as we get pretty much everything Mother Nature could possibly do in spring she's going to do tomorrow.
For a second time, because we just experienced that on Friday. So all eyes again on Wednesday.
Storms, and snow, wind, everything. Obviously, the weekend was incredibly active as far as weather goes right across the country. In fact, sadly, at least 40 people across the U.S. were killed after a series of incredibly powerful weekend storms, many of them in Missouri.
And across the South, twisters flattened neighborhoods and trapped people inside. Now in Alabama, a tornado tore through a high school in Winterboro and threw a school bus on the roof. Students are now volunteering to help with the cleanup.
Our motto is #exceptional and integrity. This community right here, all the people helping out, that's what we call #exceptional.
I like that, #exceptional. Very well done. So in total, as many as 80 tornadoes touched down across the at least 7 states. Some say they expect the cleanup to take months. I mean, you look at that video and the snapped off trees, Steph. That's always the part that gets me. As much as the destruction, obviously, of property, it's the uniform snapping off of trees at a certain height that always catches my eye.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is just some of the damage too. You know, we need to remember that there were tornadoes that tore through multiple states, but some of the hardest hit, Missouri, Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi. I mean, those southernmost states, I mean, they dealt with absolute devastation within, you know, the time span of, Friday night to Saturday night.
Right, and we're just getting started with severe weather season classically, right? We're not really even into the heart of it just yet. So I would expect that we'll have a very, very busy spring. And of course, it's good that we have all of the resources that we do between ourselves here, our Fox family, and our Fox Weather family.
Exactly. In fact, Fox Weather meteorologist Katie Byrne was able to walk through some of the damage and bring some really enlightening footage. Take a look.
After dozens of tornadoes hit the Midwest and the South, cleanup is the focus now. I'm in Gordo, Alabama, and I want to show you what some people are dealing with. I'm in front of the Pate family's home. The dad, a Tuscaloosa firefighter who's working the night that the storms moved through here on Saturday. His wife and his 2 boys actually took cover in their safe place, and you have to see what that looks like here. It's just about the only thing left standing. When you walk inside their home, the roof is completely gone in every single room here. You can see no roof, bedrooms, windows totally blown out. His family was right inside of this closet, and it's the only place inside their home that still has a roof. He says his family, they're doing okay. They're still a little bit shaken up, but now his firefighting family is here helping them with recovery, and they're trying to figure out their next move, because as you can see, it's going to be a long road ahead.
Wow, some incredible video. And bizarre to see that one room where they were taking shelter was the one, like what, maybe 4 square feet of ceiling that was still attached to their house.
Yeah, and it was, a closet, and we always say innermost part of your home away from windows, a perfect example as to why. But again, to see the roof off of every other room besides that was, like you said, just incredible.
And all those windows blown out and the doors missing and ripped right off of the frames. Had they not been in the protective, very small area, I mean, you saw how small that closet was.
Exactly.
And the whole family's crammed in there. Had they not been in that protective little bubble, if you will, the damage could have been catastrophic.
Yeah, it's also very interesting, too, because a lot of houses in the South don't have basements. So that's kind of what they have to go to. That is their safe spot in most houses.
Right. If they're lucky, they might have a storm cellar. It's just a different, construction down there. Some of the bedrock is so significant that it would be, cost you 3 times as much to build a basement as to build a house. So they just don't have them. But again, that interior room away from windows saved that family's lives.
Yes, exactly. And we're so thankful for that. And I know we're talking about Wednesday. It doesn't look to be to the extreme of Friday.
Not more of an isolated event for us if we see anything in the severe category, obviously. But to me, it's yet another very interesting period of Mother Nature spinning the weather wheel and giving us a little taste of everything.
Yes, exactly. Especially for those of us here in Wisconsin who will see some of the severe weather potential as well as some of the snow. So let's dive into our regional forecast. Now that part of the system is still towards the southwest. We do have a cold front that's on its way through as we speak, and that's what's going to allow the wind to shift off of the lake and for temperatures to drop here locally throughout the rest of the afternoon. But it really is what's towards the southwest that we'll be watching for Wednesday. So overall, most of Wisconsin today looking pretty good. Now this is going to bring in some decent snowfall totals to areas west of us. Southeast Wisconsin, we are still looking at least a few inches of accumulation, but the highest totals are going to be towards the northwest. There are already winter storm watches across northwestern portions of our state, and look at the oranges extending from southern Minnesota all the way down into northern Kansas. We need to remember that the wind is still going to be with us with this next system, so blizzard warnings are already in effect for Wednesday, as well as, of course, winter storm warnings, as well as winter weather advisories for some of those more southern states. But that's kind of the colder end of the storm system. On the warmer edge, which we will get first before the snow, there is still across, the lower Great Lakes region all the way down to the Gulf Coast, at least a level 1 marginal risk for severe storms. And I say only, but that marginal does still mean, a few scattered strong to severe thunderstorms are going to be a possibility. And then just towards the south of us, there is a slight risk across portions of Illinois as well as western Indiana. I do think for southern Wisconsin, our primary threats will be some strong gusty wind and maybe some hail with this one, which we did not see as that line rolled through late Friday night. The wind will continue to ramp up Wednesday, especially across the central and southern plains. You can see these spots have been dealing with wind and fire danger for weeks now. So the high winds continue, especially down towards the south. I don't think here locally will be included in any type of wind advisory or anything like that, but tomorrow will also be pretty blustery. And then speaking of the fire risk, again, red flag warnings continue across the southern plains along with those wind headlines. So this is what we're looking at. So for the rest of today, there is still going to be some light precip up towards the north and towards the northwest, but most of the Great Lakes region going to be dry. Here locally in southeast Wisconsin, we'll just be dealing with those dropping temperatures because of the lake breeze. Then notice how this system really comes together by Wednesday morning. In fact, you see more of the wintry side of this storm system than the showers and the thunderstorms. Those will come together, I think, by mid to late morning throughout Wednesday. You can see them across southern portions of our state. In fact, I do think we'll have around in the afternoon and then potentially closer to dinner time. And you can see how that line then moves eastward into Indiana and eventually Ohio later Wednesday night. We will then see a rapid changeover to some quick wintry mix and then more so snow, and that'll then continue through the rest of Wednesday night. We could even have a period of time Wednesday evening where there are ongoing thunderstorms lakeside, but snow inland as we see that quick transformation there. This system is out of our area and towards the east coast on Thursday, so we'll wake up dry. We may just have to shovel before we head to work and school, and it may slow your morning commute down. We could also see another very, quick and weak disturbance then later Friday evening. That could more so just be some light rain. That does not look to be in any way to the extent of what we see on Wednesday. When it comes to snowfall totals, highest once again will be up towards the northwest. That 4 to 8 inches looking possible with some locally higher amounts, which is why they will eventually get put into a winter storm warning. Right now it's a winter storm watch, but that will likely be upgraded in some way. Lesser amounts as you get farther towards the south, but still at least an inch or two of accumulation looking pretty likely across some of southern Wisconsin, especially southeast Wisconsin. Let's go across the area now for the rest of today because temperatures are going to change, and that's kind of across the entire state. In the Milwaukee area, we are going to stay in the 40s, but notice how we do gradually drop. Same story for Green Bay. May top out in the upper 40s this afternoon, then gradually begin to drop with a little bit of sunshine from time to time. Up towards Wausau, better chance to see about 50 for a high temperature this afternoon, still dealing with a little bit of cloud cover. And Rhinelander being so far north, of course, going to be a bit cooler with temperatures this afternoon staying in the low 40s. Out to Eau Claire, better chance for some sunshine, little warmer, but still this evening back to 40s. La Crosse, a warmer forecast with high temperatures, more so to those upper 50s and low 60s, being out west, of course, especially in west central portions of the state. And then Madison, temperatures certainly warmer than those of us here in Milwaukee. We'll start to feel that drop, I think, later this afternoon, not necessarily because of the lake breeze, but more so because of that cold front making its way on through. Now, temperatures do look to stay on the cool below average side here through the long range. I think even through the end of March, we could see some slightly below average temperatures. So we'll see what happens come April. But for now, I think we're just going to be dealing with some of this back and forth and certainly some below average air sticking around. Now, Rob and I are going to talk about something that happened out west. You know, we talked a lot about the fire danger the past couple of days and how we could still see that here locally as well as on a broader scale. This was just northwest of our viewing area in Green Lake on Monday.
On Monday, 750 acres in Green Lake County, actually. Big Island Fire is what they call it. It broke out on the White River Marsh State Wildlife Area. It has now been contained, though.
Which is great news. But this, again, started Monday afternoon. Rob already said over 700 acres, excuse me, and there were firefighters that stayed on scene overnight into early this morning that were, you know, just monitoring and containing
these can
and
flare
cleaning.
back up. The heat that they generate,
Right.
it's, you know, they always tell you be sure a campfire is cold before you consider it out.
Right.
Obviously, with that 750 acres, you can't make sure that every piece of that is cold. So they stayed on site to make sure that it didn't flare back up again.
Right, and I do think this is an important reminder too. I know a lot of our snow melted, but there's this misconception that you can't have wildfires when snow is on the ground. But all of that vegetation, especially the, you know, the taller cattails, which this was in marsh area,
Makes sense.
It's all dead and dry.
Right, it's super dry. We've had a very dry winter. Your skin has probably been telling you that all winter long.
Yes.
So the vegetation is all dried out too, and a little bit of rain or a little bit of melted snow here or there is not always enough to keep it from burning very quickly, as this is, you know, proof of. Those videos are fantastic,
Yes.
you know, and just striking, but 750 acres.
Yeah, which is just incredible.
Huge.
But
That's
we're
a huge area.
thankful that it is contained now. Just something to remember, though, with any day we have high winds, we're going to have some fire risk across the entire state of
As
Wisconsin.
you were just talking about, those high winds will be back in the next day or two. The transition seasons, whether it's spring or fall, do tend to be a little windier than the other parts of the year. So we'll be watching for that. You keep watching us. We are coming back with more Wisconsin's weather experts. We're going to go in the Wayback Machine and go back 100 years.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wisconsin Weather Experts. Like Rob mentioned before the break, we are going back 100 years to talk about this really historic event that happened not too far from us.
Right, and we're really privileged here because we are a member of the Fox family that Fox owns and was Movietone News back in the day. So we have some very, very old news footage and news film from way back when, and this is archive footage. Now, it wasn't well preserved as far as perfect details, but it was labeled with all of the different portions of this Murfreesboro tornado that is part of the what is considered to be the biggest, deadliest tornado in American history. And it was 100 years ago today. It was a 219-mile path. It went for nearly 4 hours through southern Illinois and on into Indiana, left just shy of 700 people dead and more than 2,000 injured. And that's not counting some of the casualties from at least 7 other twisters that happened at the same time that this was racing across those states. By modern standards, this so-called tri-state tornado would have been an F5 different situation back then 100 years ago. Of course, mile-wide funnel, they figure, speeds more than 260 miles per hour. Huge destruction. 40% of the city of Murfreesboro was just basically taken off the map. The surface low pressure at the time was located over Arkansas-Missouri border, and it moved northeast and then blended with a warm front that was also moving north. So it was kind of a perfect situation there to get this fired up, and that's from the National Weather Service, Christine Weigels, who's done some extensive forensic research on this system from back in 1925, and that just basically provided the warmth and really injected some of the moisture into the system, put that together perfectly for this incredibly violent long track tornado. And of course, now you're also looking back 1925, there wasn't the same forecasting technology that we have today. There was no warning system really in place. So obviously it led to a much more significant impact as far as injury and death than we would hope it would if that were to happen today.
This is the event that you learn if you were to be a meteorologist when you go through schooling and you take severe weather courses. This event is a perfect example of what you would practice forecasting and what you would immediately learn about. That's how historic it is.
Because it's been studied. It's 100 years, so it's been studied repeatedly over time. The researcher there, meteorologist Christine Weigels, who I mentioned and quoted there, she's one of many who have dug into this over time and really learned a lot from it. We build better forecast models from it. We have better computer models, obviously, almost every day. We have a tweak or an improvement now. We have new satellite technology with all the GOES evolutions that we've had. And then you take that back 100 years, and we didn't have any of that.
Right, which again is a recipe for disaster, unfortunately. But thankfully, we have come a very long way from there, and hopefully never have to see anything like that ever again.
We don't want to have that repeated. And one of the things that we have improved upon is actually just involving more human beings as people, because weather spotters are vital to our system as well.
They are. And the National Weather Service, lucky for us, actually hold or conduct numerous free storm spotter trainings. And one is coming up. Meteorologist Tom Walks has more information on tonight's meeting.
Well, it's that time of year again where the National Weather Service hosts free storm spotter training courses across the area. Here's a partial list of the trainings in southeastern Wisconsin. This is not a complete list. You can find that at fox6now.com. And I should mention to all of our friends across the state, this is just from the National Weather Service in Sullivan, which is in the southeastern and southern part of the state. There are also spotter classes that will be done by the National Weather Service in Green Bay, in La Crosse, and also from the National Weather Service in Duluth for our friends in far northwest Wisconsin. So check with your local National Weather Service office for these free spotter training courses. Again, they are offered every spring, and I am telling you, it is so critical. If you have not done one of these classes, I would highly recommend it. And if you have done these classes before, I'd encourage you to attend again. Again, these are free and open to the public, and it is a huge benefit not only to our viewers to do this, but also to us in the weather community. We talked with Tim Hallbach, who is the warning coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Sullivan here in southeastern Wisconsin. He's the one that sets up all of these training courses. Here's what he had to say about these free storm spotter training classes.
So every spring, the National Weather Service offers up storm spotter training, which we go around southern Wisconsin and do 2-hour-long training sessions, which go through all the basics of how to stay safe in the weather when we get thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms, and then also what kind of information the National Weather Service needs to know about and how to communicate it to us. We get severe weather every year in Wisconsin, so it's very important for us to know what's actually happening on the ground. We have a lot of great tools to be able to tell us about what's happening with the weather, like radar and satellite, but it doesn't tell us what's actually happening on the ground. So we rely on volunteer observers called storm spotters to tell us what's happening. A lot of times it's just reporting from their backyard if there was some hail, maybe heavy rainfall, if they were able to measure it. Tree down, it might be something like that. Sometimes we have mobile spotters that will actually go out to a certain location outside of their city and tell us if they're seeing things that are typically associated with tornadoes, so like a wall cloud or a funnel cloud or the actual tornado itself. So we really rely on these reports to get them as soon as we can so that we can put them into our warnings and let people know that, hey, that threat that we're putting into the warning is actually there. And people respond to that much more than just hearing a Doppler radar has indicated rotation in a storm. So we very much value the storm spotters and the reports that we get from them. And we do these training sessions to recruit new people. Sometimes it's people that have been to storm spotter training sessions in the past that just want a refresher and see what kind of new things we're talking about. So all are welcome to come. There's no need to become a storm spotter afterwards if it's not for you. But just know that we appreciate the reports when it does come to severe weather time.
So they are free and open to the public. These courses last for about 2 hours. Now, some classes do require pre-registration. That's just so the National Weather Service can get a head count of how many people are coming. There will be some online-only training offerings as well. So if you can't attend in person, you can attend one of the online training courses. But this is the biggest deal. A trained eye to the skies really helps. Let me explain more. This is actually a storm from back in May of 2024. Look at this nasty line of storms that came on through. Here's the deal with radar. The radar beam goes out, but because the Earth is curved, the farther out that radar beam goes, the higher up into the storm it's looking. Why does that matter? Well, tornadoes, for example, come out of the base of the storm, right? So the lower part of the storm. We can often see rotation within the storm on radar, which we talk about a lot on TV during tornado warnings, right? But it's really important to see what's coming out of the base of that thunderstorm. It's what we call ground truth. And this is where a trained eye to the sky is really important, because if you know what you're looking for and you're able to see that wall cloud develop, for example, the National Weather Service in these spotter training courses will teach you what that looks like. They'll also teach you hail size, for example, that we don't need every single hail report, but the larger the hailstone, really the more important it is, because a larger hailstone will trigger a severe thunderstorm warning, for example. So they cover a lot of ground in these free spotter training courses. Once again, I highly encourage you to attend if you can. Visit our complete list at fox6now.com. But again, those trained eyes to the skies really can help.
Great ideas for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, get involved if you're interested. We'll be right back with more Wisconsin weather experts.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wisconsin Weather Experts. So yesterday, Rob, really interesting, randomly looking at the tropics of all things, and saw a potential disturbance.
Right, and we're not even into hurricane season yet, but it is around the corner, so we might be getting a bit of an early start. For more on that, we turn to meteorologist Lisa Michaels.
Yeah, hurricane season, something we watch closely. A lot of people want to know, is there going to be a storm with their name in it? But other people want to know, because they do have family or vacation places down south that they've been to that have been impacted by hurricanes. Now, hurricane season officially starts on June 1st and ends on November 30th. Now, it doesn't mean we can't see tropical systems occur outside of that period, but this is what is considered the most active time that we see tropical cyclones occur. Here is the list of names for the Atlantic Basin for 2025. Now, you may notice, yes, we are going in alphabetical order here, but there's a couple things that's going to be different. One of those is not all of the letters of the alphabet are included. The names cover 21 letters in the alphabet. It excludes Q, U, X, Y, and Z, since it's difficult to find various substitute names or suitable names within those letters. Due to the geographical coverage of the Atlantic and Caribbean storms, where we have those names for those storms form, the names are going to be in English, French, and Spanish. In 2020, not that long ago, it was a very active season, and it exhausted and went through all the names within that list for this year. So they ended up switching over to the Greek alphabet, but in 2021, a year later, they decided, in lieu of using the Greek alphabet, especially if one of those tropical storms were to be extensive in terms of damage, that there was going to be a supplemental list of tropical names that they would be using instead. So that's the new protocol for the names currently. What we are going to, again, continue to educate you on is the names are not chosen by the National Weather Service. They're actually chosen by a committee from the World Meteorological Organization. Initially, the names were all male, but since 1979, now they alternate male and female names in that list. They have rotating names of 6 lists that they go through, so every 6 years. And again, if a storm is very deadly, they choose to not use that name ever again, such as Irma and Katrina.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll see you tomorrow.